Hannah chose Mike over her father's warning, and her father did not speak to her for 3 years. Clement had raised Hannah alone since she was 5. That was the year her mother packed a bag on a Tuesday morning and did not come back. No explanation came after. No letters, no visits, nothing. Clement was a tailor who worked from a small shop attached to the front of their house in Onitsha. He sewed school uniforms and men's agbadas and women's blouses, and from that work he fed Hannah, paid her school fees, and kept the lights on. He was not a rich man. He was a careful one. He knew the weight of every naira he spent because he had felt the weight of earning it. Hannah grew up watching her father's hands move over fabric. She watched him measure twice before he cut. She watched him stay up past midnight to finish an order so a customer would not be disappointed. She did not grow up with abundance, but she grew up knowing that what they had was solid and earned. When Clement told her things, she listened. When he warned her about people, she paid attention. That was the girl she was until university changed the coordinates of what she wanted. She met Mike in her second year. He drove onto campus in a car that cost more than most of her father's annual earnings. He wore clothes that people noticed. He had the kind of ease that came from never having worried about money, the kind that looked like confidence from a distance but was something else entirely up close. Mike was the last son of a businessman who had made his money in oil and had spent the better part of his children's lives making up for his absence with cash. All 4 of his children had grown up knowing that money solved problems. Mike had grown up knowing it most of all. He noticed Hannah quickly. She was not the loudest girl on campus, but she was the kind of girl that a certain type of man finds useful. Quiet, trusting, without the sharpness that comes from having been burned before. He was attentive in the beginning. He called when he said he would call. He showed up. He made her feel like she had been chosen from a crowd, which is one of the oldest tricks available to a man who knows how to use it. Hannah had never had much. She had her father and the small house in Onitsha and a life that was decent but narrow. Mike represented something she had never been close to. She told herself it was love. It felt like love. She did not stop to examine the difference. She brought him home at the end of her second year. Clement received them in the sitting room, still in his work clothes, a measuring tape hanging from his neck. He offered them food and drinks and asked Mike questions the way a father is supposed to. Mike answered smoothly. He had practice at making older people comfortable. But Clement was a man who had spent decades measuring things, and something in what he saw that evening did not add up. After Mike left, he sat Hannah down. He told her the boy's eyes were too comfortable. He told her that a man who had never struggled did not know how to stay when things became hard. He told her that she had not seen enough of Mike yet to call him her future. He asked her to slow down. He did not shout. He laid it out the way he laid out fabric, before cutting carefully so nothing would be wasted. Hannah heard him and she did not listen. She told herself he was being overprotective. She told herself he did not understand what she and Mike had. She told herself he was afraid of losing her the way her mother had left, and that his fear was clouding his judgment. These were the stories she told herself in the weeks that followed, and she told them so many times they started to feel true. She married Mike 8 months later in a small ceremony that Clement did not attend. He had asked her one final time to wait. She had told him she was not a child. He did not come to the wedding, and he did not call her after. The silence between them was not angry. It was the silence of a man who had said everything he had to say and had nothing left to add. The marriage showed its real face within the first year. Mike did not change suddenly. He shifted gradually, the way a room gets colder as evening comes, so slowly that you almost do not notice until you are already cold. He began to come home late without explanation. He began to speak to Hannah in a tone that assumed she was beneath him. When she asked questions, he told her she was too sensitive. When she pushed back, he told her she was lucky. The first time he hit her, he apologized for 3 days after. She accepted it because she had nowhere in her mind to put what had just happened. The second time, he apologized for 1 day. By the fourth time, he did not apologize at all. Hannah called her father once during that period. She did not tell him what was happening. She asked how he was, and he told her he was fine and that his shop was busy. He asked if she was eating well. She said yes. They talked for 11 minutes, and she cried after she put the phone down. She could not go back and tell him he had been right. She could not carry that conversation back to Onitsha. So she stayed, and she managed. And she learned to cover bruises and explain away absences and perform a version of happiness that cost her more each time she put it on. What broke the marriage in the end was not the violence, it was the money. Mike's father died in the 3rd year of their marriage, and the estate became a matter of serious dispute among the children. What came out during that process was that Mike had been borrowing against expectations that were not guaranteed. The cars and the lifestyle had been held up partly by his father's goodwill and partly by debts that Hannah had not known existed. When the goodwill ended, the lifestyle collapsed. Mike's response to financial pressure was to become worse at home and to begin looking for exits elsewhere. He found one in the form of a woman whose family had actual assets. He filed for divorce before Hannah fully understood what was happening. She left with almost nothing. She had put money into the marriage quietly, savings she had from a part-time job she kept through her final years at university. That money was gone. She was 27 years old with a bag, some clothes, and nowhere obvious to go. Please subscribe if you are still here. She went to Onitsha. She stood outside her father's shop on a Wednesday afternoon and watched him through the window before she went in. He was bent over a sewing machine, focused, unhurried, the same measuring tape around his neck, the same small radio on the shelf, playing quietly. Everything in that shop was exactly as she had left it, except for a few more lines on his face and the gray that had spread through his hair since she last saw him. When she walked in, Clement looked up. He did not say anything for a moment. Then he stood, went to the door that connected the shop to the house, and held it open for her. That was all. She went in. He made tea. They sat together in the kitchen, and she told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a while. Then he told her that she was home and that she could rest. He did not say he had warned her. He never said it, not once. She stayed, and slowly she began to find her footing again. She helped in the shop. She took on small jobs. She started rebuilding something that felt like a life. It was during that period that she met Bernard. He taught at a secondary school near their street. He had grown up in Aba, raised entirely by his mother after his father walked out when he was 4. His mother had been a seamstress who worked from her bedroom and saved for years to put him through school. He knew what it meant to watch a parent carry everything alone. He knew what it meant to come from a home where love was present even when money was not. He and Hannah did not rush into anything. They spoke for months before he made his intentions clear. When he did, he came to Clement first. He sat in the same sitting room where Mike had once sat, and he answered Clement's questions. But this time, Clement was not measuring comfort or ease. He was measuring steadiness. He found it. They married quietly. The ceremony was small and took place on a Saturday morning with people who actually knew them. Clement sewed Hannah's dress himself. He worked on it for 2 weeks and refused help. On the morning of the wedding, he helped her put it on, and he did not say much. But his hands were steady and his eyes were full of something he did not have words for. Hannah and Bernard built a life that did not shine from the outside but held from the inside. There was no excess. There was consistency. Bernard came home every evening. He asked about her day and meant it. When things were hard, they discussed them at the table like two people who had decided to face the same direction. Clement lived to see his first grandchild, a boy. They named him after him. He died 4 years later in his shop, sitting upright at his sewing machine with a piece of fabric under the needle and the radio playing low on the shelf. The doctor said his heart had simply given out. Those who knew him said it was more likely that it had simply finished what it came to do. Hannah buried him in Onitsha and kept the shop. She could not bring herself to close it. She left the radio on the shelf and the measuring tape hanging on the nail where he always kept it. So you see, my people, fathers know things they cannot explain and love their children anyway. When those children do not listen, that is the kind of love that does not announce itself. It simply waits at the door.